Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the latest Paul McCartney album, Egypt Station, that came out in September this year. I'm going to have a chat about it. I'm going to show you some of the various editions that I've got, have a chat about each song on the album, just a brief sort of overview, and then just give you some of my thoughts on the album as a whole. So, Egypt Station, newest album, came out on the 7th of September 2018. I've actually got 3 copies, saddo that I am. First one that I've got is this CD edition that I got from HMV, and this has got the 2 bonus tracks, Get Started and Nothing for Free, on this. If you've not seen this before, it comes with a green elastic band that holds it all together. I believe the version that's not got the bonus tracks on, I think that's got a red band, so that's how you can tell the difference between the 2. This is pretty cool. This opens right up. I don't think I've got any other CDs that do this. Can you see all that there? Got to move it right back. That's a long old CD. That's all cardboard, but it's got that great artwork, which is a painting that Paul did about 30 years ago that he called Egypt Station at the time. And he said that when he was looking to name this new album, that he decided to take some inspiration from this painting, which then became the artwork for the album. So just give you a good close-up of that there. I really like the artwork on this. A lot of people have said how it's quite similar to Gone Troppo by George Harrison. Can certainly see that. This was painted not long after, well, I'd say not long, 5 or 6 years after Gone Troppo came out. I don't know whether Paul had that in his mind at all when he was doing this. Probably not, but there's definitely similarities there. So that's the HMV UK version. I've also got another CD version, which is, this was the version that was available only in the US from the Target store, and you can see there it's got that, if that'll focus there, 2 extra songs, Get Started, Nothing for Free. So the same songs on it. This one's still sealed, is this copy. The main difference that you can tell if you're trying to identify the US from the UK copy, the US version is the only one that's got this. Okay, focus on that. Doesn't want to focus, but there's an FBI anti-piracy warning. There you go. FBI anti-piracy warning, which doesn't exist on the UK version. But again, you've got that green elastic band around there, which I think denotes the version that's got the bonus tracks on it. And then we've got this one, the vinyl version. So I was able to get the first edition vinyl version that's described as the concertina. That's the sticker that comes with it, that was on the shrink wrap. Strictly limited deluxe edition. Come on, focus. 180 gram audiophile double vinyl. Concertina sleeve, 1-time pressing. Okay. Let's have a little look at this. So again, this opens right up. You'll see it opens like that. And then it opens up again like that, so it's a triple gatefold, if that's the right term for it. And if I turn that round, you can see from the other side, there you go, it's got that great artwork. Really nice. So it's a really good looking album in terms of presentation. They've absolutely knocked it out of the park on this one, I think. So in terms of the album itself, there's quite a lot to talk about here. So it starts off, Paul described this as a journey between 2 stations. So you've got, at the start, you've got a track called Opening Station, which is just, it's a bit of crowd noise and sort of station noises. And those first 2 or 3 seconds, it really sounds like the start of Sergeant Pepper, you know, when you've got the band just sort of starting to warm up before they actually start playing any instruments. Very, very reminiscent in that, just in those first 2 or 3 seconds. And then it goes on, there's sort of some eerie noises for about 40 seconds. And then piano comes in for the first proper song, which was I Don't Know, piano ballad. Really, really like this song. It's got some really good lyrics. Crows at my window, dogs at my door. This is him really sort of bearing his soul, really, just sort of saying, you know, he's not the he's not the happy-go-lucky thumbs aloft macker all the time. You know, he has his worries like anybody else. And it's one of those songs. He started to do a few more of these in the last few years, I think, and it's a really nice song. So this was one of the tracks that got released. I think it was back in June. This and Come On To Me, which it was the next song on the album. Upbeat rocker. I like it. It's good. It's not going to win any awards for breaking new ground or anything like that, but it is. It's a good upbeat Paul rocker, and I think he's been playing it live quite often since. So hopefully that's been going down well with the crowds that have managed to see him in the recent shows in Japan, for example, that he's been doing. Track 4. I'll just show you this track listing here. Track 4 is Happy With You. Really like this song. So it reminds me a little bit of something like Put It There or Mama's Little Girl. It's a real nice acoustic guitar song, and he's just talking about how he used to get stoned, he used to be unhappy, but now he's not, because I'm happy with you. It's a really nice song to sort of show where Paul's state of mind is at, and it's obviously a song that's written about Nancy, his wife. I remember the first time I listened to this on the 7th of September when the album came out. And the main thing that struck me straight away, so where I listen to music, you've maybe seen it on some of my other videos, just up on the wall at the side of me, there's a Beatles poster, an old black and white Beatles poster, and it's the picture that they used on the Live at the BBC album, you know, where the 4 of them are walking down the road as though they're walking towards the BBC. And I just sort of looked up at that poster, and I just thought, yeah, this is that guy. I was thinking about, like, if Beatles had never really made it after that point and you'd forgotten about them. And it's almost like, yeah, this is that guy who was on that poster up there. This is 55 years later, him sort of telling us what he's been doing all these years. How is he? He's letting us know he's sort of still around and that he's happy. And I thought, yeah, that's nice. It's nice to know what he's been up to over the last 55 years, as if we didn't know. But that was just a thought that struck me the first time I heard it. So I really like Happy With You. We've then got, if we just have a look again at the track listing, Who Cares is next, which is his sort of, he's described it as an anti-bullying song. You know, who cares about what's happening to you? Well, I do, basically. So he's trying to sort of put that out as a sort of an anthem for anti-bullying. So good on him. I don't know whether it's had any effect on anybody at all, but if it has, that's great to hear. And it's okay. It's not one of the highlights on the album for me, but it's a good enough song. Then we've got track number 6. It is track number 6, isn't it? How are we going to pronounce this? I'm going to say For You. Okay. Definitely the most contentious song on the album, and one of the most contentious of Paul's career. Let's if stuff that we read online is to be believed. I think, what do I think? I like it. I think as a catchy pop song, it's one of those that Paul's been doing for decades, and it's definitely got that hook there. Is it Paul trying to be more modern than somebody of his age should be? That's certainly I think a valid argument. I played it to my daughter. My daughter's 20 years old at the moment. I said I didn't really give her any background. I just said, just have a listen to this song, Paul McCartney song. What do you think of it? And she had a listen, and her opinion, which I thought was quite a good one, was that that song in the hands of somebody like a One Direction or Flavour of the Month, whoever it might be, would be an absolute smash hit, but she didn't think that it suited the voice of a 76-year-old man. So I thought that was a pretty fair comment from her. But personally, I think it's a really, really catchy song. Paul obviously having a little bit of fun with the lyrics there, and upsetting a few people in the process. But I think if you listen really closely, I think he's definitely saying, I just want it for you. Okay, it doesn't make it obvious that that's what he's singing, but I think that is what he's singing. Next we've got, let's just have a look at this again. We have got Confidant. Actually, I'm going to talk about Confidant and People Want Peace. Confidant, so this is, Paul said this is to do with a guitar that he found under the stairs that had just been sort of left abandoned for quite a while, and he'd not done much with it, and he felt a bit guilty. My underneath the staircase friend, he describes it as. It's not one of the greatest songs on the album, I don't think. It's pleasant enough, but it's not a highlight for me. One thing I will say about this album is that I think that the songs that are the lesser songs for me, such as Confidant, are quite a bit better than some of the lesser songs on his other albums. So I think that's a big plus point in terms of my overall opinion of this album. If that is the low point on the album, and that's obviously just opinion, then it's a very good low point. People Want Peace. So yeah, this is his one of his anthem kind of songs, a bit like Freedom. And I think actually my first thought that I had when I first heard this song was that People Want Peace, could that have been the song that he maybe could have written back in 2001 September, when he was on the tarmac at JFK, when he saw the when he saw the smoke coming from the towers in New York on that day, and he obviously wrote Freedom, which isn't one of his most loved songs. This could have been a song that he might have written at the time instead, and might have maybe gone down a bit better. I don't know. To me, it's like it's what Freedom maybe should have been. Okay. And although on the vinyl there's still one song left on the first disc of the vinyl, so it's a 2-disc set, for me this sort of marks a bit of a halfway point in the album. Up till this point, I think it has been a good Paul album. I wouldn't put it right up there at the top in terms of Paul albums based on what we've heard up to this point, but it's a good steady Paul album. From this point onwards, I think that changes. I think from this point onwards it becomes a great Paul McCartney album, and it's at this point where I think this changes. And we start off with Hand in Hand, which is a beautiful song. It could have been, it's very, very similar to something that could have been on Chaos and Creation. It's that kind of sort of slow ballad that there's a lot of those on that album. But then you've got that sort of flute solo in the middle, just beautiful. It just stays the right side of not becoming a panpipe solo, but it's beautiful. And I think Hand in Hand is an absolutely gorgeous song. We then move on to what on the vinyl is the second disc. So let's just show you before we start. Let's have a look at the track listing of what would be disc 2. Okay, you can see it starts there with Domino's Back in Brazil, Do It Now, Caesar Rock, which I think they're the songs that are on the first side of the second disc. Domino's, I think, is a great Paul song, and it's certainly one that seems to have captured a lot of Paul fans as being one of his great recent songs. For me, the song just keeps going. It keeps going. There's parts where somebody else, another songwriter, might have sort of had a little pause at the end of a chorus or a verse, and then sort of done something to lead in, but it just keeps going. And it's got a beautiful hook. It could have been, I think, if it was a little bit more experimental, it could have been something that would have been like a Sing the Changes kind of thing on the Electric Arguments album. But yeah, it's a really, really good, catchy Paul song. And then we have Back in Brazil. Now, the first time I heard this, I thought, this should have been a bonus track on my McCartney 2 Deluxe archive. It was sort of a mixture of Temporary Secretary and various other things. And I tell you what, I love this song. I love all the Itchy Band stuff. Boo! Brilliant. I love it. It's just a great fun song. It's Paul telling a story like he did in Another Day. and songs that he's done like those over his career, and it's just a really good fun song. I love it. Do It Now, it really sounds to me like a Brian Wilson song. Like if Brian Wilson now wrote another great Brian Wilson song, I wouldn't be surprised if it sounded just like Do It Now. I don't know whether he's heard the song. How would I know? But if he has heard the song, I'd like to think that Brian appreciates that, because we all know that him and Paul McCartney have got a lot of respect for each other and what they've done over the years. But it really sounds to me like one of his songs. So it's a good one for me. I like Do It Now. It's not one of my favourites. And then we've got Caesar Rock. I love Caesar Rock. At first, I thought it was. So we've got Greg Kurstin producing this album, and he's also recently done the Liam Gallagher album. And this was a song that to me sort of sounded like could it that kind of production. But I love the whole sort of pun of Caesar Rock, she's a rock, and then at the end, she's got matching teeth. That's fun. So I really enjoy Caesar Rock. It's a great fun song and a great closer to that side of the vinyl. And then we've got the last side of the vinyl, fourth side, which starts with what I can only describe as the epic Despite Repeated Warnings. It's the first time I heard this song. I'd already heard a lot of people who'd sort of maybe heard it on some of the American radio stations that I think were playing it early. So some people have been saying, oh, this is amazing, fantastic song, love this. The first time I heard it, it didn't grab me in that way. It took 2 or 3 listens before it started to really sort of grab me. But the first part of the song is sort of quite slow. It's building up this story about the captain, his wife, his daughter Janet, and you've probably heard the story about Paul sort of described it as being a song about climate change deniers, and it may or may not be targeted at a particular person. Who knows? But so that first part is sort of setting the scene. It's a little bit sort of Admiral Halsey, Uncle Albert kind of thing. And then it just keeps going to these other levels, and it just keeps building, and it just keeps hitting you, and it's just fantastic. I love it. But the best thing of all for this song, for me, is at the end, where you've got the backing vocals, and all of a sudden, I don't know how they've done this, Paul sounds like it's from Tug of War. It's like that 1982 Paul McCartney voice that I certainly thought was lost forever, and a lot of other people did as well. And he just launches into these vocals that are just absolutely amazing. So whether he'd managed to nail it in the studio that day, whether they've used huge studio trickery to get it, I don't know. The one thing I thought at first that I've not heard mentioned anywhere else, I don't think this is the case, but I genuinely thought at first, have they got some old vocals from a Tug of War session from a song that we didn't know about and put them into this song? I don't think that's not the case at all. We'd know about it if that was the case, but my God, it sounds like that era. I got a bit emotional once I'd sort of got that in my mind. But it's a great song. We've then got Station 2, which is, we mentioned opening station. This is the station that we're now arriving at, Station 2. And this is, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a moment, but in itself, it's not really a great deal. It's just sort of a choir kind of voice. There's a little bit of background noise as though it's people in a station. And then you hear a guitar cable being plugged into an amp. You just hear that, and you hear a little bit of riffing going on there, just checking that the thing's in tune, and then bang, straight into the medley that we have that finishes the album and starts with the song called Hunt You Down. And really good Paul Rocker, some right dirty electric guitar on it, which is really nice. And Hunt You Down then goes into a song called Naked, which to me sounds like something that could have been on the Pipes of Peace album, like a sort of average person kind of thing. But that's good. It's a good Paul. It's a good Paul melody and a nice sort of happy song. And then it all fades away into the last song on the album, which is called Sea Link, it's a Paul McCartney electric guitar solo with a bit of backing, really nice sort of bluesy solo to finish the album with. Now, one thing that I've not really mentioned at all, but something that's just a theory that I have, and it really ties into these last few songs, especially on the album. This feels to me like Paul McCartney has deliberately made his last album here. Now, as a huge Paul McCartney fan, on one hand, I really hope that's not the case, because I just want to keep getting albums from the guy forever. And although, to be realistic, we're not going to be getting albums from him for that much longer. But on the other hand, this to me is an absolutely perfect ending to Paul McCartney's career, if it ended up like that, which obviously I hope it isn't, but it feels right if it was. And I'd like to just explain some of the reasons why this album gives me that impression. So I mentioned about opening station that starts the album there, and I said that those first sort of 2 or 3 seconds sounded like Sgt. Pepper, and there's bits right through this album where to me he seems to be reminding the listener of elements of his career that have gone, as though he's saying, here's my career, this is what it's been. So we've got Sgt. Pepper echoed in the sort of opening of the album. We've got, as you get towards the back end of the album, I think there's more and more of these things. You've got, despite repeated warnings, I mentioned it's got those vocals that to me just deliberately sound like they've been made to sound like a 1982 Paul McCartney, as though he's reminding us of that era of his career. And then it really starts for me, and this might sound a little bit morbid, I don't intend it to, but this is just my opinion, folks. Station 2. So I mentioned a couple of minutes ago that it's got like a choir sound. To me, it's like that heavenly angel choir. This is like the sound of, I'm almost reluctant to say this, but it's the sound of him going up to heaven. Choir of angels singing, blah, blah, blah. He goes up to heaven. And what does he do when he gets up there? He wants to plug his guitar in. He's got people up there that he can jam with. He's not seen John for a long time. He's not seen George for a long time. There's a lot of people up there he can play guitar with. So at the end of Station 2, you hear him plug his guitar in, and then bang, he's into that song, Hunt You Down. And then we've got the Naked song. Now, the very last lyric on Naked is, I've been naked for so long, so long, so long now. Get rid of that first bit, and what you've got is the very last lyric on this album is him saying, so long, so long, so long now. Am I reading too much into it, folks? Tell me what you think, but makes sense to me. And so that's why I just wonder if he's had in his mind, this could be the last album, and let's actually present it as such. A bit like the Beatles did. I mean, what was the last album that the Beatles recorded was Abbey Road. And what's the last song on there? It's called The End. You don't get much more descriptive than that. And then in the same way that British TV used to do back in those days, when it got to the end of the TV day, you would play the national anthem. So they're saying it's the end, and then they follow it with Her Majesty, a tribute to Her Majesty. So they did it with the Beatles, and I just wonder if this is him doing it with his solo career. I'm not sure. But anyway, overall, my opinion of Egypt Station, a couple of months in now, is that I really love this album. It's probably going to be my album of the year for this year. I think it's too late for anything else to come along and beat it now for me. It probably would have been Arctic Monkeys' album Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino if it hadn't been this, but this just gets it for me as album of the year. Really enjoy it. In terms of where I'd rank it for Paul albums, well, I'm probably going to do another video on Paul McCartney album rankings at some point, so I won't give too much away. But what I will say is that for me, the modern day McCartney masterpiece album was Memory Almost Full, which some people might agree with, some people might completely disagree with, but I loved Memory Almost Full. I just thought it was so much better than we had any right to expect from the man at that stage of his career. This beats that for me now. This is a better album than Memory Almost Full for me, and I'm sort of toying with, I think it probably gets around 5th, 6th place for me in terms of Paul McCartney post-Beatles albums. Time will tell whether it goes up and up in my estimation even more, or whether it sort of slips back a little. We shall wait and see. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Egypt Station. I think it's a wonderful album, and really glad to have got this from Paul this year. It's been just so much better than I could have expected it to be. I hope you enjoyed that. If you've got any comments, let me know. I'm going to be doing more Paul McCartney albums, so if you want to subscribe, and you'll see when I do those further reviews. I'd love to see you for those. But for now, cheers, bye bye.